We want to thank everyone in attendance today. This is a special day with a fantastic group of Hall of Fame inductees. Before we start today, we'd like to ask a few groups of people to stand up and briefly be recognized. First, any current coaches, current players, or current athletic staff, if you will stand and be recognized. Next, if any former coaches or former student athletes will stand and also be recognized. Next, would any current Hall of Fame members that have been inducted please stand and be recognized?
Gainey, that's you.
And then lastly, if the families of the players being inducted today would also please stand and be recognized.
Woohoo! Congratulations!
All right, thank you and welcome. Who qualifies as a Hall of Fame member? To qualify as a member of the Hall of Fame, our candidates must meet one of three criteria, one or more of three criteria. First, outstanding athletic performance. These are individuals or teams that have set historical milestones in Memento College athletics or have had notable and record-breaking performances. Second is support and advancement of Memento College athletic programs. These are individuals who have displayed a lifetime of support, advancing and enhancing the Memento College athletic department. And the third criteria is legacy talent, which includes announcers, coaches, donors, managers. These are individuals who have given time and energy over the course of their lifetime to enhance the athletic department programs, or former athletes who have gone on from Memento College to achieve monumental lifetime achievements impacting the world around us. To proceed with the formal inductions, I'd like to welcome our president at Memento College, Dr. Ron White.
Wow, it's so good to see so many of you here today for this very special day and this time that we will spend together for the next little while. Today we add additional inductees to the permanent display of Emmanuel's Athletic Hall of Fame. This effort was started in 2012 by the members of the National Alumni Association and coaches and was spearheaded by Beth and Sherm Smith. Sherm was the National Alumni Association president. Today, this ceremony is being celebrated to acknowledge and honor Emmanuel's finest athletes and greatest athletic supporters. Since its inception, the Hall of Fame includes 2 entire teams and 5 individuals as follows. The first men's intercollegiate basketball team, the first women's intercollegiate basketball team, Larry James, basketball, John Hilton, baseball, Heather Vaughn Hill, softball, James Ricks, basketball, and Michelle Bryant Gregory, basketball. Their pictures are displayed in the hallway just out here, so hopefully you saw that when you came in. If you haven't, make sure when you go down the hallway, take a left at the registration desk, and you'll see the Hall of Fame right there. And we are honored that these have been inducted. I'm not sure if any of them are here today, but are any of those from the first team here? The first women's team, first men's team? Okay, we got one right here. Anybody else? Okay. I don't think John, Heather, James, I know James is not, and Michelle are here. Today, Emmanuel College has over 30 intercollegiate sports programs that have produced hundreds of academic All-Americans, several players and coaches of the year, multiple national, regional, and conference titles and individuals, and one Olympian who participated in both the 2016 Rio and the 2020 Tokyo Games. We appreciate the service of our athletes and all that these individuals add to the Emmanuel College culture. I think we've already recognized several today, and there are actually games going on today. I guess we're probably at the end now. We're done. Tennis was playing a little while ago.
Softball and baseball.
Softball and baseball still to go? Okay, so there are games going on. If you want to get into it, just talk to Nate, find out what's going on and be a part of those games. Last fall, we held a special ceremony during one of our basketball games, inducting former Lions basketball coach Jim Gainey into the Hall of Fame. Coach Gainey, would you please stand? You can remain where you are. But I would be remiss in this service, at this time today, if I didn't mention Gainey and his induction. I want to read a few words about him. Jim Gainey enrolled in Emmanuel in 1959, played basketball for Coach Bill White during his 2 years here. From 72 to 77 and from, again, 85 to 92, Jim served as the head basketball coach for the Emmanuel Lions. And during his tenure, the Lions won the GJCAA championship in 75 and again in 91, and were named regional champions in 89 and 90. Coach Gainey was named Region Coach of the Year both years. In addition to serving EC through athletics, Coach Gainey also served as Director of Development and Alumni Relations for many years and was instrumental in raising millions of dollars for this college. Please join me in congratulating Coach Jim Gainey to the Hall of Fame. I keep telling him he's looking a little bit more like Santa Claus every day. Got to gain a little weight, though. Our first inductee today is from the class of 67, Dickie Armstrong. I guess he goes by Dick now, more mature or whatever, but you know, when we were laughing about me, I was Ronnie White, and Coach just told me a second ago, he says, you know, when you were a student here, I always called you Ronnie. I said, Coach, you can keep calling me Ronnie all you want to. I was here as a freshman in 67, which was Coach's first year. So Dick, would you please stand and come forward and stand over here beside me while I read some great things about you. Appreciate you being here today. Coach Lloyd Turlington is here as well, and Coach is going to come and say a few words before I read my words. So Coach, would you come and give us a little history of Dick Armstrong's time here at Memento?
Thank you. Good afternoon. I met Dick 3 hours ago. And so we sat down and I had an interview with him, and I was impressed with his reputation that he had when he was at Emmanuel. I remember going to our first conference meeting, and all they could talk about was Emmanuel was Dick Armstrong. They called him Dickie then too. Okay? And he led the conference that year in scoring with a 28.6 scoring average. He made all conference, he made all tournament. He didn't do bad as a freshman. He scored 18 points a game as a freshman. He was captain of the team, and he did very, very well in our conference. I don't know the schedule. Like I said, I just met him recently. Okay, when he left Emmanuel, he joined the Army, and his basketball skills went with him, and he played for the special services in the Army team. And they won the European Championship 2 years in a row. Okay. After being discharged from the Army, he went to work with Eastern Airlines. Anybody remember Eastern Airlines? They go way, way back up there. He was with them for 21 years. He reached the general manager position. He retired in 2008 with CenturyLink, and he's a member of the First Baptist. Rio Rancho in New Mexico, church in New Mexico. He's married to Lynn Reed. He's been married to her for 52 years. So he has an outstanding history and an outstanding man, and I'm glad I finally got to meet him. I've been hearing about him for so many years, and he was an outstanding ball player. In other words, if you played on the Army team and you win the European Championship, you can imagine, he played first string. You can imagine how skilled he was. On 2 occasions, he scored over 40 points in a game. One game was 46. This is before the 3-point line. And so you can imagine, I don't know, Coach was saying, I don't know, you've had some 40-point performance, I'm sure. I'm sure Gainey has too, I'm sure. But this is before the 3-point line where you only get 2 points for scoring a basket. So all of those attributes are outstanding, and it's been 55 years since you were here?
Over 50 years.
It's over 50 years. And we don't want to talk about that. This is a bunch of old crowd here. Okay, he wants to say a few words too. Oh, I'm sorry.
Fantastic. Thank you, Coach. Again, Dickie was here 65 to 67. You heard some of the stats that Coach just read. I can say from my personal memory, when I came here, I roomed with one of the guys on the basketball team, and this was Coach Turlington's first team that he coached here. Eddie Baldwin was my roommate, and as a result, I got to meet a lot of basketball players and became friends with them. And so Don Williamson, you see the name of this arena is the Jack and Rachel Williamson Arena. That was because of Don's great contribution and love for his parents, gave a lead gift on this great facility. And so Don Williamson was here, Don Minton, Ronnie Mills. Those guys became my friends. But here's why I'm telling you that story, because that first year when Coach came, he inherited the talent that was here. He didn't get to recruit. So he had to take what he had, right, Mitch? Right. And Mitch was on that team. And so they had a pretty tough first year. You can talk to Coach about it. He probably doesn't want to talk about it. He'll talk about the other years. They were much better. But here's what I remember, is Don Williamson and Don Minton and Ronnie Mills had all been on that team with Dickie. And they would say things like after a game, and they'd gotten trounced, and we were all sitting around crying, you know. And I would hear this, man, Dickie Armstrong. Who is Dickie Armstrong? I don't know what you guys are talking. And so, and then Gainey would also talk about it from time to time, about remembering how great a player Dickie was. So, your words, your name has been talked about in the halls of Emmanuel College for many years. And probably somebody would probably watch a game today, maybe, and I'd be up in those stands, and that guy's a lot like Dickie Armstrong. You know, so you made Emmanuel proud today, and today we acknowledge your accomplishments and honor you by inducting you into the Emmanuel College Hall of Fame. Nate Mormon is going to present you here is the plaque that we will present to you as your award for being inducted, and it contains the medallion that we present. So yeah, you'll get the picture right there. Yes.
I would like to thank Lloyd Turlington for nominating me for the Basketball Hall of Fame. Also like to thank my good friend and fellow Hall of Fame member, Jim Gainey. Jim carried the torch for me here at Memento and kept my name on the forefront for Hall of Fame. Families have already been identified, but I'm a proud person, so I'm going to introduce my family again. Our daughter Angela is here from Tempe, Arizona. Our son Jeff is here from Dallas, Texas. From Stanley, North Carolina, from the Stanley Pentecostal Holiness Church, my sister Pat, and one of her sons, Derek. And most importantly, my beautiful Canadian bride, Lynn, is here. As was mentioned, Lynn and I recently celebrated 52 years of marriage.
One of the biggest conference.
It reminds me of the old fellow who had been married for a long time, well over 50 years. And he was surrounded by a bunch of young people asking him questions. How have you managed to stay married for so long? And one of them asked him, is there one thing that you can think of that contributed to your successful marriage? And he thought for a moment and said, yes. He said, my wife and I try to go out to eat at least twice a week. She goes on Tuesday.
That's pretty good.
I played basketball in the mid-1960s. And I could see some of you looking around saying, wow, that was a long time ago. And some of you weren't even born yet that are here today. I would like to reassure you of a couple of things, those that weren't around in the 60s. The basketball that we played with was round. The backboards that we played on were fiberglass, very similar to what you see here in Wisconsin. And all of our games were played indoors. We didn't have to play in the wind and the rain and the snow. We were inside. You say it was a long time ago? Yes, it was. But then again, not so long. Allow me a minute or two to tell you just how good God has been to me. Every morning, I get up and I go downstairs and I start coffee and I sit down and read my Bible. And I have my morning devotions and God gives me a clean piece of paper. And He tells me, try not to mess this up today. Well, I go through my day, and more times than I would like to recount, I mess it up. I say something to somebody that I shouldn't say. I think something about somebody that I shouldn't be thinking. Or I'll react to a situation that's not very Christian-like. And at the end of the day, I thank God for the day, and I ask Him to forgive me of my sins. And I believe that He forgives me.
Yes.
I ask Him to give me a chance to do better tomorrow. I go to sleep, I get up the next morning, and I go downstairs and start the coffee, and I read my Bible, and I have my morning devotions, and God gives me a clean piece of paper. He tells me, try not to mess this up today. So, my prayer for you, and I trust it will be your prayer for me, is that we keep our paper clean. But if some of you find you're a little bit like me, and you say something to someone you shouldn't have said, or you think something about somebody you shouldn't be thinking, or you react to a situation that's not very Christian-like, ask God to forgive you. If you believe He will forgive you, He will forgive you. Thank you for being here today.
Amen.
Means a lot to me.
Wow, thank you. That'll preach, Dickie. That'll preach.
Yeah, well.
Our second inductee today is a class of 91 member, Natasha Pittman-Bolden. Natasha, please come forward. And before I read my remarks, your coach, Mike Baum, will come and make a few comments about your time today. Your coach, who is still the coach, by the way.
A long time.
Oh, we gotta get that.
I get that quite often, by the way, not quite. You know, when I came in, I had to do a double take because since she's been here, she's grown. And I realized she's got those heels on. What if they could have played in those heels? I'm going to read this and try not to take too long because I know we can be impatient. But when you're a basketball coach, it's one of the joys you have in coaching to see one of your former players recognized into your school's Hall of Fame. I had that joy today. When Natasha was a senior at Commerce High School, you remember that, right? Not too long ago. I went to see her play and immediately wanted to see her in the EC Lady Lions uniform. I think I told her that too that day. She was athletic, she could score, she had a feel for how to play the game and play it with just rhythm and ease, and she never seemed to be off balance. And then you gotta like that beautiful smile. So with all that going on, we recruited her. And I had to convince her that she could come here and play for us, because at the time we had, if you remember when you came to watch us play, we had 2 6'5" girls playing for us. And I remember her asking me, Coach, I don't know if I can play against girls that tall. So I needed to convince her that they were leaving. And we needed her to come in here and play for us. And she did, and we're thankful that happened. Her first year, after 6 games, actually coming in off the bench as a freshman, she was our leading scorer and rebounder. And then it happened. She went down in the game, and later on we found out she had knee injury. In fact, during that game, when she fell down, I think I put her back in the game because she was ready to go back in the game. One trip down the floor, she went down. So she had successful knee surgery that year and returned to play here the next 2 years. And actually, she was the first player we had that actually was here for 3 years. The Junior College Association let her come back and get 2 full years. Well, in those 2 years for us, she averaged over 20 points a game, over 12 rebounds a game. With her help, we went 60-6 in those 2 years, winning 2 regional championships and finishing in the top 4 of the nation twice at the national tournament. Natasha was a major part of that. Natasha was also selected to 2 all-regional teams, which meant the whole southeast of the United States. She made 2 national tournament teams, and in her final season, she was selected as a Junior College All-American. Upon leaving Emmanuel, she signed to play at the University of Auburn at Montgomery, where she made all-conference and graduated with her degree in education. I will tell one story about Natasha. I'm not sure she remembers, but in the fall when she was to attend University of Auburn at Montgomery, I happened to be driving to Commerce High School to talk with another recruit. And on the way to the high school, her home was not far off the road, so I just took her right off the road. And when I got there, the coach at AUM was there, picking her up, remember? To take her to school. During that time, he reminded me that I told him that Natasha would be a definite double-double player for him, and that she needed to be that for him to drive all the way up to Montgomery, for him to pick her up. Anyway, fast forward, it's your first year there, right? Yes. Fast forward November, December, it was just a couple of games. And this is before cell phones. I'm at home at night, it's 11:30, 11:45 at night, my phone rings. I was about half asleep, and it was her college coach, Coach Tilley, who wanted to be here, by the way. He was gone. And he said, Mike, I'm sorry to be calling you so late. I said, well, I understand that. You know what time it is? He said, well, I had to call you. I couldn't wait until tomorrow. He said, we just got done playing, and Natasha just set the school scoring record. She scored 44 points. So let me go on with that. So before he hangs up, he said, also, I want to tell you, if you have any more players that can play like Natasha, let me know. I'll drive from Montgomery all the way up there to pick them up. Anyway, Natasha, thank you for giving me the honor of being your college coach, and a super congratulations on this special and most deserved award.
Natasha, you've made Emmanuel College proud. Today we acknowledge your accomplishments and honor you by inducting you into the Emmanuel College Hall of Fame. Nate is holding the award that we will give you as a symbol of your induction into the Hall of Fame. And we have a beautiful plaque over here, which I didn't mention for Dickie a moment ago, but I know you guys have all seen them for you. That will go on the wall as a Hall of Fame memento. We want to get a picture, so let me hold your things, and if you'll step out there with Nate and get that picture. We have learned that if you don't take that picture right then, you don't get that picture. Because when this thing's over, everybody's always feeling about it, wanting to congratulate people. So please pardon us for taking those moments. Now, Natasha, tell us what you want to tell us.
Thank you. Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. It's an honor for me to have this opportunity to stand before you tonight as an inductee of the 2002 Emmanuel College Basketball Hall of Fame. I am truly humbled, honored, and blessed to be in this year's spotlight with these former collegiate athletes. James 1:17 reminds me that every good gift that we experience in life is a good gift from the Father. We are to give thanks for everything, Ephesians 5:20. And when thanksgiving is directed towards God for the gifts he gives, then the Lord is glorified. 2 Corinthians 4:15. So thank you, God, for my gift. I would like to thank the Hall of Fame committee for its decision to induct me to the Hall of Fame. This is such an incredible honor and privilege, an accomplishment that I will always cherish with great pride. There is no possible way that I can stand up here tonight and thank everyone that played a role in me being here, but I would like to take this time to recognize some of those individuals. In the words of the late Athea Gibson, no matter what accomplishments you made, somebody helped you. First, I'd like to thank my late father, Hayes Goodman, and grandmother, Sam Chaney. I brought this scrapbook in honor of her. I don't ever recall her coming to watch me play a game, but little did I know she was my #1 fan, and it shows right here. My mom, Alice, who is here tonight, she has taught me everything about life, including discipline, that I thought at a younger age was her being too strict. She taught me independence, not to always rely on others to get what I want. And she taught me how to be my own woman, how to work hard for what I get. Mom, you have been with me every step of the way, through the good times and the bad that I've experienced throughout my life. You have always been there to encourage, console, and motivate me when I needed it most, and made a lifetime of sacrifices for me. And I want to thank you tonight in front of everyone. Next, I'd like to thank some more of my family members who are here tonight. My husband, Michael, my 2 daughters, Shaniqua and Natalia, my sister, Nita, my sister, Teresa Rollins, who has been a huge support throughout my entire life. She's a woman of great character and humor as well. She has always been there when I needed her. She's not only a sister to me, but like a best friend who has spoken so many profound and encouraging words to me throughout my life. My uncle, Sam Chaney, a retired educator of the commercial school system. Thank you for being that loving, patient uncle who taught me PE and the ins and outs of life. You're a true example of fatherhood. You are stern and rigid, yet compassionate and empathetic. I know that you've always been proud of me and bragged about me to others. I would like to let you know this evening that I am very proud of you as well, and for the years of teaching and serving our community. To Mr. Rand David, who happens to not be here tonight, but he made a tremendous impact on me playing basketball and just growing up in the community. He was encouraging and motivating to me. He helped me to believe in myself when I didn't. I couldn't see past the moment. He planted a seed and watched it grow into this beautiful flower that would inspire others like her someday. I hope your deposit turned into a lifelong investment and that I live up to all the expectations you had of me. To my EC family and teammates, how could I forget you? You played a big role in my basketball journey here. The one thing Coach Coleman could always say about us is that we came to play and we showed out, but in a good way, of course. Thank you for the fun, lasting memories, and the bonds that we now have. Thank you, family and friends, for believing in me through it all. All of your support and understanding throughout my journey gave me the strength to continue when I felt like giving up. Thank you, and I love you all. To my high school coaches, Don Watkins, I can't even begin to tell you how much of an impact you made in my life. You encouraged me to have confidence in myself and my abilities to play basketball and where it could take me. You were the kind of coach who cared about your players in all aspects of life. You were a man of great character, grace, and integrity. You never raised your voice much, and you were slow to anger. You taught me my life's biggest lesson one game. I don't even know if you remember this. And it was about character. Doing the right thing when nobody else is looking. I will never forget when you sacrificed a win against Dawson County one night. I mean, we were leading pretty good, and a great deal. But he benched me for something that I didn't think he saw me do. But he taught me a lesson that night that I'll never forget. To Coach Prickett, Coach Jeff Prickett, the best coach on this side of the river. You played a tremendous role in my development in basketball. Back to the basket, outsmart your component, no matter their size. Use your body. Don't let anybody come to your house. That was the pain, Dwayne. Get low, get wide. All of those things resonate with me today, especially when I watch my own daughter play. You will never know how much I appreciate you then, and even more now. You are the GOAT of the post game. To Coach Mike Bonner, thank you for taking a chance on this skinny girl with Jerry girls. High right, low left, from Commerce, Georgia. Bringing me to a manual, teaching me the nuance of the game and the freedom to perform on the stage. Now, many of you probably know this by now, but Coach Bonner was a no-nonsense coach. For example, whenever we missed a play or a defensive assignment, he would always stomp his foot, put his hand on that heel, and in rhythm, Dreon, Todd, Barb. Now, I only mentioned those two names because we were the post players at that time. Okay, but 6'10", Ursula, I mean, he would strike that pose, and we knew immediately he messed up. But we also knew that was the perfection in him as well. He pushed us to compete and challenge one another every day in practice. Whenever we didn't get the task done, or if one person messed up, all of us paid for it, on the line. Whenever he was on the court coaching, you could see the passion and love, not only for the game but for his players as well. He always treated us as if we were his daughters, and we always loved him as if he was our father. Whenever I needed you, you were there, no matter my rights and wrongs. It wasn't by chance that our lives crossed paths, it was destiny. Thank you, Coach Coleman, for getting me prepared to transition to the next level. You'll always be a part of my life forever. Lastly, to Coach Tilly, who's not here this evening. He's a former coach of the University of Montgomery and a relentless recruiter that worked together diligently and strategically with Coach Coleman during my recruiting process. As Coach mentioned, AU allowed me to further my basketball career, obtaining a bachelor's degree in education. Coach Tilly was probably the most laid-back coach I had out of all the coaches. He was big on perfection and strategically planned practice with the outlined detailed schedule every day. It took me a minute to adjust to the early morning conditioning and afternoon practices all in the same day, but once I settled in, the rest was history. And yes, history I made when I scored 44 points in a single game and 102 steals in one season. In conclusion, I have been asked this question 1,000 times. If you had it to do it all over again, would you choose Emmanuel College to begin your collegiate basketball journey, or would you choose a different collegiate or university? I tell everyone who asks that question, without hesitating, I would choose EC. EC gave me the best experience, and it is the best school in the nation. Go Lions.
Wow, thank you, and congratulations. Our third inductee today is actually the entire 1968-69 men's basketball team, which was Coach Turlington's second team, and the first team that he had an opportunity to recruit and to change the way things were going in the basketball world. Coach, would you like to come at this time and share any words or comments about that team? And you can just, whatever you want to share, I just thought you might like a word.
That was a great team. I had an opportunity as a result of a meeting the previous, in December, to decide whether we were going to integrate the school or whether we were going to offer scholarships. Okay? And all of those people that were in that meeting are no longer here except me. There was 11 of us, and I'm the only one still around this time. So I do want to mention them that some of you are old enough to remember Dr. Hartsfield, Dr. Melton, Reverend Swells, Charles Bradshaw. All these people are gone, and they were so instrumental. I'd like to take credit for it, but without them, this could have never happened. Okay? Meeting we had December 8th, 1968. Okay? So they gave me the license to go out and recruit. They only limited me to 4 scholarships. And then I went after some African Americans because we had a Pell grant. It was called the EOG grant during that time, and the federal government would take care of half of their expenses. And I'll go into the other part later individually with you, but I'm just saying this is what happened. Let me give you a little bit of background. This is 1968, recruiting these players. All of them came from segregated schools. They live in a segregated community, with segregated churches, schools, and they had no contact, hardly any contact, except maybe on a transactional basis with the other race. So this is what they had to do when they came here. And the guys, as well as all, did more than their share in welcoming these guys here. Because that was their experience too, with the African American culture. So they both did that. So this is the reason for our success. Okay, we started I'm taking some of your thunder, that's all right. Okay? All right, we started a home winning streak. We won 19 straight home games. Okay, it went from that particular team, the 68-69 team, And the 1970 team, which Frank Arthur was a member of that team as well, did not lose a home game. I had a student come up to me one time and say, I never saw us lose a game, because students didn't go to the away game. This is the only exposure they had to watching basketball. Well, Lee beat us in December of '67, and that was the last time that we lost at home, okay? And we went to November of '71 before we lost again. So that was their accomplishment. But the biggest accomplishment, I think, with this team was the guys who played on the previous year's team before we integrated, offered scholarships and that type of thing. They stuck with us. You know, they were getting playing time, and then when the season started, when my boys came in, they didn't play. They played some, but they didn't play like they did, and they stuck with us and made my African American athletes welcome, and that was very important. But I'm going to mention something else a little bit later on, because Mitch just want to say something about the team. He was a member of that team that I was just talking about, okay?
I don't think the younger people in the room really understand those times. No, that was a period I grew up in. And it was a challenging time for African Americans and whites. This man is one of the most courageous people I've ever met.
Amen.
Coach Turlington took on not one issue, but two issues. He said, Emmanuel College should be integrated. All right, that's a big enough issue to take on at an all-white school. And then the second thing he says, and if we're going to get students, we got a scholarship. If we're going to get them to play, if we're going to be competitive. I mean, I don't know. Dr. Hartsfield, Dr. Melton, those folks who were the administrators at the time, that was a pretty big challenge for them. But they worked through that. And I want you to know that this story is told in a book that Coach Turlington wrote. It's called Before You Were Born, Reflections on Basketball Education and Civil Rights. And he wrote this book for his sons so that they would understand the history. But I'm so glad he has shared it with many of us. So if you want to know about the full story, talk to Coach, and he can tell you how to get that book. But I've got my copy. It's a PDF copy that he sent to me to proof and to look at. And we made some edits because all of our memories were a little bit shaky. Made some edits and we got it, and I still cherish that, and I go back and read it from time to time. Now, I'm personally attached to this story as well because I was a student here in '68, '69 when James and Frank and others came, and I was living in Wellens Hall, and James and Frank were living in Wellens Hall, and we all learned that, hey, guess what? We're not that different. We're all people. And what is this artificial barrier that we've created between races? I can remember that I cannot ever remember any issue that we had. Now I'm sure I wasn't there, Frank, but I'm sure there were probably some awkward moments that you and James dealt with as you went through your years here at Emmanuel and in this process. But I can't remember a time when we didn't all get along and when everything was going well. I can say that from my perspective, the African American athletes were welcomed by the student body and supported in their efforts to play basketball and to get an education. I want to say to Coach Turlington, Emmanuel College is grateful for your tenacity in the face of these challenges that you persevered and you succeeded. Now, again, he's already told you some of the things this team, some of the honors and some of the great things that they accomplished on the court. But I still think the greatest accomplishment of this team was that guys like Frank and James were willing to come to an all-white school and play ball and find out what it was like to be an Emmanuel Lion. And I think that's one of the greatest accomplishments that you achieved, Coach, and this team achieved, and I want to thank you for that. So I want to say to the team, and so we have Mitch Coleman and Frank Arthur, and we're going to honor Frank separately in just a moment, but would you two guys come and stand right here for me, please? Right now, you and Frank and Mitch. Because I'm going to officially induct this team, the entire team. You two are the only guys that were able to show up today. There are some others out there. Unfortunately, some have passed on, I'm sure. But we're glad that you two guys could make it. And so you have made Emmanuel College proud today. We acknowledge your accomplishments and honor you by inducting this entire team into the Emmanuel College Hall of Fame. So we want you to stand up here, if you would, please, and get this picture. We'll go ahead and get this picture. Frank, I should have told you to stay. Come on back. Because not only have we inducted 3 teams now, but Frank is being inducted as an individual Hall of Fame winner. And so, again, your coach is going to come and share some remarks about your time at Emmanuel. Coach?
This is a special honor for me to be honest with you on this. Some of you may know Coach Dave Odom. Some of you do. He coached at Wake Forest in South Carolina. Okay. He called me one day and said, I got a player up here in Burlington, Graham area that can play college ball. He's got good. And he was coaching at Durham High School then in North Carolina. So he was trying to find a place for him. I said, okay. Sounded good. He's a good rebounder, block shots. And you might be thinking I'm talking about Frank Arthur, but I'm not. Okay? So I said, okay, well, my mother-in-law lived in Greensboro. I said, I'll be up there at Christmas or sometime. It's actually in March. And then we had a tryout. And Frank was one of the players. We went for 3-on-3. He was one of the players. And of course, Gene Evans was the other. Gene Evans was one of the better players that ever put on a pair of shoes at Emmanuel. He didn't play very long, but he averaged 21 rebounds a game when he did. Okay, so for that 1 year. And he was on the 68 team and he didn't quite make it to the 69 team. Okay? And Frank was out there working out, and I said, this guy's got a lot of talent. He's got a lot of potential. Good rebounder, and he really has got a good attitude, and he would fit in at Emmanuel. That's another thing that we had to do when we recruited. Coach Zozine will tell you that too, and Mr. Gainey, Coach Gainey. We had to have, when we recruited them based on skill and their potential and their attitude and their ability to fit in. So that's one of the things. So that's where I met Frank, and he played that day, and I offered him a scholarship. When I met his mom in the home, it's the first time they had a white person in their home, I think. And that's don't feel bad. It's the first time I've been in a black home, So we sat down, and I could see that she was so proud that her son was going to have an opportunity to get a higher education and play college ball. But I saw her eyes welling up, fear in her eyes, and I said, and she was scared to death that he was coming down to North Georgia in an all-white school, and he had never had any exposure to that. And I picked up on this, and I said, "Don't worry, Miss Arthur." I said, "I'll make sure he's safe. I'll take care of him." And the guys in Wellens Hall did more than the rest of them. They did too. Okay, so they made him feel welcome. This is not to say they didn't have any problems, but it didn't happen with our students. Most of our staff were in favor of integration. Some were not, but they weren't racist. They just weren't in favor. So that's the difference in that. Okay, so let's look at what we got this somewhere. Frank did. I don't have it with me here. Excuse me, just a second. All right, he played for the Emmanuel Lions basketball team from 1968 to 1970. He was the first African American to be introduced in a Lions uniform in the starting lineup in October of 1968. He was the first African American to play 2 consecutive years. In other words, he was going sophomore to play for him at that time, okay, for Emmanuel. In his freshman year, Frank was the fifth leading rebounder in the conference. When he left college in 1970, he had recorded the most rebounds in the team's history with a 16.3 rebound average per game. In his sophomore year, Frank was selected to the All-Conference and All-Tournament teams. In his final game in a Lions uniform, he scored 30 points and dominated the boards with 32 rebounds. He's the only 30-30 player in the 60-year history of the program. I got 2 coaches here who can verify that or deny it, either way. But as far as my record keeping, he was the only 30-30 guy that had played. Okay? Now, this is what he did when he was here at Emmanuel. Okay? All right. Then he graduated from Alabama County Community College in the police science program. He was the first black police officer in Graham. 7 years he became a sergeant in the police force. He left Graham and worked in Durham as a public safety officer, retired after 28 and a half years. Worked for 30 years in the UNC as public safety officer. He's a member of the Wayman AME Church his entire life, won lifesaving award at UNC Chapel Hill, saved 8 lives during that year. He's a certified instructor in first aid CPR with American Red Cross and American Heart Association. He is now retired, but he works part-time with the UNC as a safety officer. So he's saving lives, he's doing all this work. He's had a great career after leaving here. And I want to say one other thing, just to put it in a time frame. I should have mentioned it earlier. I met with Dr. Martin Luther King, and on March the 4th, 1968, in a meeting, he wanted to meet with me because he had heard through the local minister here that I had recruited African Americans to an all-white evangelistic church, and they had to attend a white church, and the white church also serves the community. Now, he was not too concerned about athletes, because there are other athletes doing this in other parts of the country, but he didn't know of any that were doing this type of thing, recruiting black players and having them attend a white church. He said that was very, very unusual. And he was going to keep up with me. This is on March the 4th, 1968. After that, a week or two later is when I recruited Frank and Jeannie. And then on April the 8th, 1968, y'all know what happened. Dr. King was assassinated. And he was curious about what we were going to do at Emmanuel. I just wish he was around to see how well it has evolved. So I'm very proud of with Frank and Paul.
Frank, you have made Emmanuel College proud, and today we acknowledge your accomplishments and honor you by inducting you into the Emmanuel College Lions Hall of Fame. Nate has your plaque that we'll present to you, and we have this that we'll put in the Hall of Fame. Again, congratulations. So if you'll step up here with him and get that picture.
Good evening. My mother would be very proud. I know she's smiling from heaven at this moment because she was very proud of me. In 1968, Coach Terrence from Canyon Central High School located in Graham, North Carolina, check out a few players. One of those players was yours truly, me. I came to Emmanuel College and seeking a good education, which was very good. Coach was been very influential in my life here, and I'm very appreciative of him. I can remember the one-on-ones we played after practice. He was relentless, and I was too. Until I dunked backwards on him one day. You don't remember that, though.
Yeah.
But Memento College has really been a positive influence on my life, and I'm very, very appreciative of that. And I also would like to thank my family for supporting me, for traveling with me today. My wife, Linda, stand please. Tamika, granddaughter Jessica, and great-granddaughter Chase and George. I'm very appreciative of Emmanuel and made a very positive impact in my life, and I'm blessed. Thank you.
Fantastic. Our final inductee is Coach Lloyd Turlington. Coach, would you come? Before reading my comments, I'm going to ask one of his players, which we just inducted into the Hall of Fame with the 68-69 team, Mitch Coleman. Would you come say a few words about Coach?
He said be good now. Carolina won today. And I have on the old Emmanuel College basketball colors. I don't have a written speech. I just want to say how much this place meant in my life. I came here after I left high school, played on a high school state championship. Baseball 4 years, basketball my senior year. I went to Newberry College, not on scholarship, but didn't know how to study for that. My pastor at our church said I might have one more thing for you. I came here, met the doctor, the head guy in, drum. And he said, you know what? I'll give you one chance. You come for the first quarter, and if you make good grades, you can stay. I came. I made everything except the D in Dr. Swales. I was gone, but I went to him and I said, Dr. Swales, can you help me? He said, you like your school? I said, I love the school. I love the coach. I love playing ball. I was playing with the team before the other ones come in, which I'll say in a minute. He said, you know what? I think you're right. And he gave me a C minus for a mistake. After that, I did well. My wife came the next year, or that year. I met her. She was a cheerleader on the basketball team from West Virginia. We've been married 51 years now.
Wow.
Yeah. We're married on my birthday. You can understand why. And because I asked her, she said, what do you think? Great. We have 2 sons, and my oldest son played here in the mid-90s, Casey Coleman. My grandson is looking there, Knox. He's going to be 6'8", and he's going to play here. I love Coach Turlington. We played the first year without the black players. I grew up on a sharecropper's farm in South Carolina with 2 black families. I played with them all the time. We swam together, we played together. When James Reese and Frank came, I thought, oh, I got my friends here. and we played together, and we loved each other, and we really liked each other. And I like Coach Turlington. The only thing I do not like is my freshman year, I had 26 rebounds, and then he broke my record. So that's it. This school has given me the greatest opportunity in my life because I got the grade, I got to stay, I didn't get to have to go to Vietnam. And I just wish I would have played on this floor and not the other. Amen. I could have done that. I might have dunked the ball better. Okay? And that's all I got to say. These were my best friends, Ron, David and Mary Robertson, we met. We were friends in college. He is my son's godfather, and Casey. And it has just been a wonderful thing to be here and meet all of y'all and have this happen. You don't know how much it has meant, and you don't know how much this college means to people. And I've been around North Carolina for a lot of years. And I'll say this last thing. I got to see my grandson because in the last 20 years I've had 10 heart stents, triple bypass, and men's stroke. And I'm here with y'all today. One more thing. My wife was a cheerleader, and she wrote a poem for Christmas, and I want to read it. It won't take but a second. It's called Day One. If your life has been full of pain, dwell on the past produces nothing to gain. Guilt-ridden by your actions, you never feel peace. Only God's mercy can let self-hatred be released. Maybe you've lost a loved one, the hurt will go away, a child, a parent, a friend. Sorrows fills your heart every day. As we grow older, regrets can fill our soul. Coulda, woulda, shoulda. Thoughts you can't control. God's forgiveness and peace is offered to our state man. All disappointments disappear like writing in the sand. God can take our sins, regrets, all our sorrow, wrap it in His grace, and give you fresh tomorrows. So, get up each morning, sing praises to Father and Son. Your spirit will remind you that day is born.
Coach Lloyd Turlington became the third head basketball coach at Emmanuel on August 12, 1967. Not only that, he was the only PE teacher at that time. And all students had to take PE as a requirement for graduation. And I was one of those students. He still coached me. He's always been coach. And I asked him a minute ago, I'll sit here beside you if you won't make me run any more laps. And it's been a delight of mine as president of Emmanuel to reconnect with him over the years since I've been back. And it's been also an encouragement, his work for Emmanuel College. Coach Turlington arrived at Emmanuel with great expectations of changing the direction of the program, and you've heard us talk about that. And with the help of Mr. Stan Oliver, Coach Turlington began recruiting the 68-69 team, ultimately finding James Ricks and Frank Arthur, who came to school here as we've already discussed. You've heard about the records, you've heard about the great success, and as I mentioned earlier, Coach Turlington's book captures the challenging times during which he coached and the momentous changes that occurred at Emmanuel during this time. You heard him mention meeting Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and being encouraged by Dr. King to continue his work at Emmanuel. Coach, Emmanuel College is truly grateful for the impact you've made on the basketball program and on the college as a whole. Your passion and courage to effect change is evident, and your track record proves it. You have made Emmanuel College proud, and today we acknowledge your accomplishments and honor you by inducting you into the Emmanuel College Hall of Fame. So Nate has the plaque we will present to you, and if you guys will step out here, we'll get that picture. Would you congratulate Coach Lloyd Turlington?
was asked to come to Emmanuel. I was recruited, had a coaching position open, and I had never heard of Emmanuel, and Emmanuel had never heard of me. But there's a lot of people already mentioned, they're deceased. They were very instrumental. My life at Emmanuel, most of them, since I was one of the younger faculty members, most of them have gone on. And I want to mention a couple of them. Stan Oliver, of course, helped me with the recruiting. Charlie Bradshaw helped me sell the program that I was trying to sell to the college. Because, my wife and I were Quakers, coming to a Pentecostal holiness school. We didn't know how to talk to each other. But anyway, we got along pretty well. And so they helped me recruit. I recruited 25 players on scholarship while I was not like 4 years here. So I was very thankful for that. And I want to mention my best friend in closing, who died about 3 or 4 years ago. Correct me, Bill Shirley. How many of you know Bill Shirley?
Yeah.
Okay. He was my best friend. He taught Emmanuel into recruiting me and coming to Emmanuel. And I remember him quite often. And he was my best friend, not because here, because we played high school and college ball together too. After he left Emmanuel, he went on to Guilford College where I played. So I am very appreciative to Emmanuel for all the opportunities they had, and I am very happy with the success of my ball players after they left Emmanuel. Emmanuel was about halfway in their college educational program. That was it. So they had to go on and continue, and they become productive citizens. That's what I'm the proudest of. Thank you.
Let's give all the inductees one more round of applause.